Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're here to talk about 3 games. 3 very specific games for this week's review episode. This week, we are going to be comparing and contrasting 2-player set collection games. And the 3 games that we're going to be looking at is Tides of Madness from Portal Games, Schotten Totten from Yellow, and Hanamikoji from Emperor S4. Basically, we're going to do a quick review. These aren't very in-depth games, so we're going to do a quick review of each game. And then at the end, we're going to kind of compare them and contrast them and talk about which ones we prefer and what we prefer about them. And then we'll do listener feedback and wrap up the show. So, pretty normal format for those of you who have listened to our compare and contrast episodes. So, we're going to start off with Tides of Madness, then we'll do Schotten Totten and Hanamikoji, so you know kind of what to expect. And we'll get it rolling here with Tides of Madness. This is a 2016 release from designer Christian Kurla. Bunch of different artists, published by Portal Games. It plays 2 players, like all of these, and takes about 20 minutes. Zach, do you have a rules overview for us?
Yes, I do. In Tides of Madness, you're drafting cards to build the most prosperous kingdom, but I guess with Cthulhu in company. Most cards have 1 of 5 suits, along with a scoring objective related to each suit. Some cards also have a madness symbol, giving you a madness token. Each round starts with 5 cards. Then you're going to draft one and hand the rest to your opponent. After drafting all of these cards, you're going to score and then pick up your played cards. Choose one to keep permanently in front of you, and the other one you're going to ditch. Draw back up to 5 cards, and then you continue for the next round. Do this for 3 rounds, and if anyone ever has 9 madness tokens, they immediately lose. Otherwise, after 3 rounds, whoever has the most points wins.
Yep, and that's Tides of Madness.
It's like 18 cards make up the whole game, I think.
18 cards.
Yes.
Right on. Well, let's talk about our initial thoughts going into Tides of Madness. Zach, what were you thinking going into Tides of Madness?
I had heard a lot of Tides of Time, and this is sort of a follow-up to that, and I had heard a lot of good things about it. They were like, this is a game that, you know, a lot of times drafting, it's like you need more people to actually do a good job drafting in a game. And I'd heard a lot of people say this is a quick filler game that does 2-player drafting well. And so I had heard that the Tides of Madness follow-up added an extra mechanic in it that made it just a little bit deeper, like a little bit harder choices in it than Tides of Time. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll pick that one up. And also, I think when I first picked it up, I was still like, yay, Cthulhu. Which I mean, I'm still like, yeah, Cthulhu, but you know.
It's now it's just an octave lower of a yay.
Yay, Cthulhu. But yeah, I had heard a lot of good things, and so I was like, yeah, especially it's really cheap. I got it. I think I ended up getting it at Gen Con or something like that.
Okay.
So
right on. Jeff, what were your thoughts going into Tides of Madness?
I think Zach had explained I had picked up Tides of Time used for like $7 once, and he was like, oh, it's that game that's Tides of Madness is supposedly better than. And I was like, I don't know. I'd heard this one's pretty good too. I have yet to play Tides of Time, but I have played Tides of Madness now.
So you've played Tides of Time, just...
yeah, basically. But I heard it was just like a real quick, easy drafting game, which I enjoy.
Right on. Personally, for me, I hadn't really ever heard anything about either Tides of Time or Tides of Madness until starting to prep for this review.
Really?
Yep. Zach suggested it along with games that I was familiar with, Hanamikoji and Schotten Totten, and I was really happy with those 2 games. So thinking that this was a game that Zach was willing to lump these other 2 games that I liked, I went into it with relatively positive feelings, higher expectations, despite the Cthulhu, because where Zach is, yay, Cthulhu, I'm, nay, Cthulhu.
But
yeah, so I had fairly positive thoughts going into the play of Tides of Madness.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so those are our initial thoughts going into it. Real quick, let's talk about the components. There's not a whole lot there.
It's a bunch of cards.
18 cards.
18 cards.
Yep.
Some madness tokens.
Which are tokens.
Yep. Punch board tokens, pretty simple. A pencil, which comes sharpened with an eraser.
Yeah, so that's like...
Sharpened pencil in the box.
Eraser, it's... The first time I saw it, I was like, holy shit, I actually even exclaimed, did this fucking come in the box?
And then a score pad and a rule book. There's really not much, and this is going to be similar for all of these
Mhm.
games. There's not a lot of components to talk about.
The main thing I would say, though, like the only exceptional thing I would say is the art on the cards.
Yes. The art is really good. It's
Unique Cthulhu art because
Yeah.
it's not Fantasy
Yeah, it's
Flight.
not Fantasy Flight's ones, but it looks very detailed and colorful, dark but still colorful.
I like it way more than Fantasy Flight's Cthulhu.
Yeah, I can see that. Tides of Time has the same sort of thing where it's really good looking for that. It's a bunch of like buildings and stuff. That's why it's like building
Ancient
kingdom.
civilization thing.
Yeah, but that's what I looked on this one too. I was like, well, what is the theme of this one? It said you're still trying to build a kingdom, and I'm like, okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
Just an old one building I don't know.
Yeah. Cthulhu's there with a hammer and some stone. And he's like, let's do this.
It's got a tool belt.
He's got madness nails.
The cards are the other thing I want to touch on in this one is that the cards are
Tarot sized.
they're tarot sized cards. They're bigger cards, so that artwork is larger.
Yes.
And
Which I think helps the game a lot because it's more that art, which looks really good. Yeah.
otherwise, the iconography is all really simple
Mhm.
and very easy to understand once somebody explains it. The cards are all really self-explanatory with just
Yeah.
a little bit of text on the cards telling you basically what that card's scoring condition, if
Mhm.
any, is.
Yep.
And if it doesn't have a scoring condition, it tells you what special thing it does. And then they're all very clearly marked like what color they are. So like one of them will be like, get points for having the most
Mhm.
reds.
Yeah.
And
And
it'll have
it doesn't say reds. It does show the symbol.
yes.
And so even if you're colorblind or something like that, it's 5 unique symbols and 5 unique colors.
yes.
So it can even if you can't tell the difference between the colors, you can be like, this one's a tentacle, this one's a lighthouse, this one's a book.
Yep.
So
So,
it's always good when they have that.
And
So,
whatever
I
that
agree.
yellow symbol is.
right.
A portal?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is basically everything for components in this
Yeah.
game. There's nothing else really to touch on that. So let's jump over to rules and rules explanation. Let's start with you, Zach,
Mhm.
because you taught me this game
Yeah.
and you kind of learned it. So how, for learning the game and then teaching the game, how do you think it is?
I mean, I think it's fairly straightforward. Like the only thing that people need to learn are just like with a lot of these style of games, you need to know what the cards are. And so like even telling people is like these are different types of cards. It's like through playing it, then you're like, okay, that's how these match together and stuff like that. But the actual mechanics of playing the game is really simple. We're drafting, you get dealt 5 cards, you choose one, and then you place it, and then you give 4 to the other person, and then when you get those 4 from the other player, now you basically know everything that's in the first round if you can remember it. And so it is, you just keep doing drafting, and then it's just you place, you're going to keep one of those cards forever, and then you're going to get rid of one, and then you're just going to do that 2 more times. And I think it's pretty quick to learn how to play the game. And even like I've taught multiple people this game, and usually they're like, okay, I get the game now, I get how the drafting works, how the set collection works, and then so they'll play again, and they'll have a much better grasp of it because it's so quick, like you said, 20 minutes, that you can do a quick learning game too, and you'd be like, even 1 to 2 rounds, and be like, all right, you want to play for real now. So I think is definitely easy enough to teach a new person.
Right on. Jeff, you learned this game kind of on your own, separate from Zach. Like Zach didn't teach you this game, right?
Zach and I did play one
Yes.
round.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes. And it was definitely easy enough to pick up, but definitely you need multiple plays to really get the strategy behind how to play each card and which cards are good and which cards are bad, and don't fuck up with madness. And
yeah. Which, yeah, and that's the only thing that I would have to add to this is that you are going to need more than one. Like, don't judge us after one play. Because, like, I know for me, like, even after that first round finished up, and it was like even the first round, like, when we first played, the way you explained it to me, I didn't realize that we draft that first card and then immediately reveal it so that you immediately get to see what I'm going for. Like, here, I just handed you this deck of this thing of cards with all these other ones, and oh, here's what I took out of it, so here's what I'm going for. And then you're like, oh, well, now I'm going to draft this card. Draft this card away from you.
But it's also you have to be like, I sort of remember what I gave you, and it's like with that, it might go with this, and so it's all about, because there aren't that many cards in the draft. Like in general, there aren't that many cards, and you see all the cards in the draft. You basically need to tell the person, it's like, try to remember, but that takes like 1 to 2 games to because for people to see versus understand.
Correct.
So
yeah, so I don't know. I think that's pretty much it for rules and rules explanation on this one. It's a
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
simple game and gameplay.
make sure you know, like you're saying before about the madness. You got to make sure you know that it's if you get 9 madness, you're just going to lose the game, and because it's a draft, once someone gets higher up on madness, it can be easier for the other person to be like, I'm just going to go for whatever right now. I'm gonna keep giving you madness cards that you can't not play.
Although it's not, you don't immediately lose with 9 madness. Because it's during a certain step in the.
Well, it's during the scoring when you get the tokens is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I can keep giving you cards that have the madness tokens.
Well, because there is the one brief step, because there's one card where you take a madness token from your opponent.
Yeah.
And that step happens before. So, like, I could get to 9, but then you take 1, and then you check for fail.
Mhm.
So there's a brief.
One card that could.
There's a
save you.
brief, very brief window where.
Well, I'm just saying that when teaching it, let them know madness can get away from you. You can
Yes.
also be like Jeff and be like, not realize that 5 of your 6 cards have madness, and you already had 6 madness on you already. So that was 11 madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a lot of madness, isn't it?
I mean, and that's basically what happened to me. Like in one of our plays, I let my madness get away from me a little bit. And even though Zach took 1, like I ended up with 10, Zach took 1, I ended up at 9. And so I still lost, but then we totaled up and like it was the last round of the game. And Zach, you did basically what you talked about where you
can
drafted you were like, oh, you've got 8 madness. Like
Mhm.
as long as I make you take 2, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And there was nothing I could really do about it, which is frustrating, but it's also my fault for letting madness get away from me.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to say is that in the beginning, because you do get a chance every time because at the end of each round, whoever took the most madness has a chance to get 4 points or lose a madness. You're going to be like, oh, I'll take 4 points. I have 4 madness. What's wrong with that? Then you're not realizing that the card you kept is a madness card, so you're going to keep getting a madness each turn from that. And there are a lot of cards that have madness on them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so that covers rules
Yes.
and rules explanations. Now we can talk a little bit about gameplay, which we kind of have been in the madness portion of it. But the drafting in this, like we said, is kind of interesting because you don't draft your hand and then play it. You draft a card and then immediately play that card. So, like I mentioned there, like your opponent gets to see before they choose their next round of drafting. They get to see what you're going for, and you get to see what your opponent's going for. So there's kind of an interesting dynamic there that after a few plays, you start to kind of plan, not necessarily, like you don't really bluff with what you take, but you start to be able to look at the hand and be like, okay, well, if I take this one, then he can easily block me on the on this next draft. And hate drafting isn't one in this one, where some games, like hate drafting is like you're basically wasting a turn. Like, oh, this is really good for you. I'm going to take it and just trash it. The way these cards work, it's easy to be like, oh, you're going for this. Well, I'm going to take this and just incorporate it into my strategy.
Yes.
Because I might be going for majority in blues, but the blue card you take has nothing to do with that. It just happens to have the blue symbol.
Yeah.
And now it goes for
then
something
it'll be
else
like
you can do.
Each red you gain 3, and it's like, okay, I'm taking this to make sure you don't get majority, and it's going to help my other things.
Yeah.
I think a big part of this game is just the fact after that first round, all the if you can remember, all the information of what's going on, and then you're trying to plan. Like you said, you're trying to be like, all right, well, they have this card, so they're probably going to want this card from my hand, maybe that card from his hand that he currently has. So there were things there. So it's really a lot of memorization in this game. And then especially when you go to the second round, you take up all those cards that you played down, and that basically becomes your hand with a couple extra cards. And so it's like, I still remember that you have those things that work together, and it's like, am I able to pull any of those away from you and work them into my strategy while having you not pull my cards away from me?
Right.
Because I remember with the first game that you and I played, the first round, like every single card I was playing was like, oh, this works great for me. This works great. And you were just like, you just had a couple cards that was just like, oh, I wanted to do that, but Zach took that card, and now these cards don't work for what I'm trying to do.
Now I'm screwed.
Yeah. Which luckily, a lot of the points you get, like comparatively, you get more points in each subsequent round because you have more cards coming out.
Yes.
So it's not like if you get sort of hosed in the first one, you're out of the game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the first round you're going to play 5 cards and score on those 5, and then 6, and then 7. which can lead to interesting things where, like, in one of the games we played, the second card you kept was the gain a bunch of points. I don't remember how many.
13
for having one of everything. But it's like, well, you cannot score that this round. Like, you're not going to have enough cards. That's really in only the last round scoring.
Well, it's in the first round. It's only good if you get super lucky, and it's like, but either someone's going to take that card in the beginning, and then it's just like, I have to make sure you just don't get them all.
Yeah.
And then you don't get any. That ended up being my second card that I kept, but I had 7 cards to play with, and I already had 2 of the symbols, 2 of the suits from my first card I kept, and this one. So it was going to be like in the third round, it's a lot easier to get those bigger ones done than earlier. So that's why you have such a bigger increase in points.
Yeah.
What did you think of the drafting itself, Jeff?
It's pretty basic. I mean, 10 of the cards are like have the most or get points for each color or get points for having or get the point for majority of that color. That's 10 of the 18 cards. Because 2 for each symbol, and the rest are like sets, but it's not like every set.
No,
it's only
just
there's
1 or 2.
Yeah, or like one of each, or one of 3 or something. Like Cthulhu has
one of all 4 or all 5.
There's one that's all 5, and then there's one where it's 3 of them.
Yeah, and then
there's one where it's get points for everyone you don't have, which can be an
useful.
Yeah,
especially because I think that one is doesn't have a madness, which is nice.
Yeah.
There is one to get 1 point for every madness, which can lead to an interesting, like, trying to push your madness as high as you can get away with.
Yeah, exactly.
High risk, high reward kind of strategy with that card.
Yeah.
Especially because you take one from your opponent at the end of each round. So you really have to make sure you know where you are with your madness.
Right.
But like I was saying before, it takes a few plays before you can understand what all the cards are and what the best strategies are. And there are cards that you just won't get access to because you're culling out.
Yeah, usually you'll be like, you're going to get rid of a card that either just didn't work for yours or really worked for your opponent. But I guess, like, what did you think about the drafting and just like that you early on in each draft, you get you get all the information for each round, basically.
It's hard to keep track of all that information, especially when you're just learning because it's like what symbols are on what cards compared to what points and what sets that card needs and what madness is on doesn't make any sense when you're first starting out. And then you kind of learn that's like some of the madness cards are kind of powerful, but they're on certain set cards and not on other certain set cards. And they're kind of on like a weird middle range of cards, but they're not on the really high point cards but sometimes they're on really low point cards. Like for each madness, get a point, but it also is a madness one. So
yeah. Well, I think for that one, it's like some of the bigger ones are like, you're taking a risk by taking a big one because if you don't get it, if you don't get its thing, you don't get any points. And so that gain 1 point for every madness, that's going to reliably get you points every time. And so because of that, it's like, well, take some madness. So that's what for playing it safe, you're playing a little risky.
Yeah. And then there's like each color is on 3 cards, and then there's 3 cards that don't have any symbol on them at all.
Yes.
Yeah. Power scale per card per strategy. It's sort of all over the place, and it's kind of hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
Especially remembering like what cards did I pass him and what's his strategy on his cards, and then you're keeping track of like 9 different cards passing between hands and what's played out in front of people. Rough.
Yes. Yeah, especially that first couple times.
Yes.
And it's something you can't really. It's sort of hard to teach somebody without them playing. Like they have to sort of
like just give this like 9 or 10 plays. You'll memorize all the cards, and then it'll be no problem.
Yeah,
I could see people getting in some crazy high level play of this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it's a basic enough game to where you can play it a lot, and I'm sure it's a great couples.
Whole level of meta probably in there that we haven't even touched.
They're like on that second round. As soon as they see their cards, are like, all right, I know the cards that are coming up next round, and I got a plan to get good for those. It's like because I know one of the first rounds we played, I had been like, all right, I'm playing risky. First card I played was the get a set of everything for 13, and then I looked, and I handed him his cards, he handed me his cards, and I looked and I saw that there were no blues on any of them
At all.
and the wild card didn't come up either, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not getting that. Time to pivot.
Yeah. Hard pivot.
Yep.
Right on. I think that pretty much sums up gameplay.
Mhm.
At least for as in depth as we need to go at this point. We can talk a
Yeah,
little bit more
yeah.
about it during the comparison at the end of this. So let's do final thoughts here for Tides of Madness before we move on to the next game. So, Jeff, what are your thoughts on Tides of Madness?
It's a pretty game. It has some interesting strategy in there, but I don't know if I want to invest the time to learn the meta around the game, where there's other games that take this amount of time that I would probably rather play.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. Cthulhu doesn't super get me, and yeah, it's pretty art, but as anybody who listens to the show knows, I don't, when it comes to board games, give a shit about art. And the gameplay is interesting, but aside from really getting into it, like obsessing over it and trying to really memorize all the cards and like learn some advanced meta and like things of it, it doesn't really seem interesting for me for like I don't want to play it enough to do that. And short of doing that, I feel like you're always going to either be at a disadvantage or just not experience what the game really has to offer. And so I'm like in this awkward middle spot where it's like, well, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it enough to want to put in the time to actually get good at it.
Right.
So I probably won't really play it much. What about you, Zach?
I mean, pretty similar to you guys. I like at the very least I can say I do like the game. I just wish that there was a bit more there. I understand that it's supposed to be, a 20-minute filler game, and I think it does do a great job of doing 2-player drafting and make that feel like a little bit meaty in that regard, because like you're saying, because as soon as you trade one hand, all the information, and then you're trying to plan ahead and trying to figure out what they're going to do. But after I get done with each play, half the time the other person just forgets about madness, and then it's like, all right, well, you just lose, so sorry.
Yeah.
And and it's at some point it's always just like, don't forget about madness. And, it always feels weird. It's just like, you're gonna lose the game at this point. But I do like that mechanic. I can already tell I would prefer this over Tides of Time just because it has that extra thing.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. The art's great, but it is totally removed. It might as well just be playing cards, because that's really what all they are.
Right.
It's not about doing anything Cthulhu related. It's just, here's Cthulhu art on these cards.
Yeah. The theme is, well, and the madness, like it'd be hard to come up with another theme for that. I mean, I guess you
Waste
could
or something. I mean,
drought.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I like that they added that mechanic. I thought that was a good way to make you pay attention to your cards more than just the symbols, just the suit symbols rather. But after every time I play this game, I'm like, okay, that was fine, and I would probably be willing to play this to teach to somebody. But given other 2-player type games, it is not the first one that I'd reach for.
Makes sense.
Best sharpened pencil with eraser, though.
It's true. Best pencil in a game ever that's already been included.
Because it's sharpened and has an eraser.
Yes.
Right on.
It's got to be an awards category.
Oh, yeah.
Well, on to the next game, which would be, in this case, Schotten Totten. This is originally a 1999 release that was re-released in 2014, which is what we played. It is designed by Rainer Knizia. Again, bunch of different artists. Published by Aiello here in the States. It plays shocking 2 players and takes about 20 minutes. Zach, do you have a rules breakdown for
I do.
us?
In Schotten Totten, you're trying to gain control of the majority of 9 stones. Each round, you're going to play a card in front of a stone and then draw a card. After playing 3 cards in a single area, whoever has the best poker-style hand there can claim the stone. But you can claim it early if you can prove on the board that your opponent cannot beat you there. If you're able to claim 3 adjacent stones, or 5 in total, you win.
Yeah, this one sounds incredibly simple, deceivingly strategic.
Yes.
But let's go into initial thoughts here. So I'll start. I first played Battle Line, which is the 2000 release of Schotten Totten
From GMT.
And it incorporated some tactics cards and things that were then reincorporated in the 2014 release of Schotten Totten
As expert variants.
Yeah.
And
So-
it also had 1 through 10 in cards instead of 1 through 9.
Yep. So subtly different, but overall gameplay very similar. You're competing over different battle positions, playing cards out to make these poker hands, 3-card poker hands. And I played it with Paul, and I really liked Battle Line. I liked it. It was the right kind of tense decisions where, like, I have a hand of cards, and I can, especially once you get into like the mid to late game, I can really see what my opponent's going for, and I know what I need to beat them there, but it's like, can I get that? Like, how can I make this work? And similar to when we talk about Hanamikoji, where there's 2 different ways to win. You can capture 3 in a row or 5 across the board. You know, you're kind of balancing that. You're like, okay, well, I can get these 2 over here because he played in ways that are easy for me to beat. But then I don't know if I can find the rest spread out. And it's just that kind of decision making really clicked for me in Battle Line. So then playing the new version of Schotten Totten for this review,
I was like, this is Battle Line.
Yeah, it's Battle Line with different art.
Yeah.
Slightly different theme. So I was super into that. And so I was really looking forward to playing Schotten Totten. I had very high expectations for it.
Yep.
Jeff, how about you?
I had played Battle Line once or so. So you were like, this is Battle Line. And then I played it, and it's Battle Line. But like Battle Line, I was like, poker hands. I'm not good at poker hands. But I always like ELO and its vibrant art. So I was looking forward to different Battle Line, because Battle Line's pretty dull.
Yeah.
Art wise.
Yeah. Same for me. I played Battle Line first, and for that one, I had heard people talk about it a while. Like, this is a great tool. But for me, it was like, it's a GMT game and it's called Battle Line. I'm like, this probably just some fucking war game or some shit like that. And then Paul was like, let's play Battle Line. And I was like, all right, like, I guess we'll just do it. And then he started telling me the game, and I was like, oh shit, this seems a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And so when I saw, I had seen that a couple years ago, they had just decided to re-release Schotten Totten, and I was like, oh, I can actually get that game now. It's a smaller box, and I was like, oh, it has like that same goofy-ish style art that like Welcome to the Dungeon had. A lot of their small game line had, and I was like, sweet. So I was like, I bought it, and I was showing it to you people, and I was like, this is Battle Line. Now let's just play Schotten Totten.
Right on. Art and components for this one, it's similar to all the rest of these. Component wise, it's a deck of cards.
So this is, so I will compare it to Battle Line a couple times, just because that's how we originally played it.
Right.
Basically, that one used just like red tokens, like red pawns. Basically, this one had little cardboard chits or cardboard tokens that were like just to show that they were the stones and stuff like that. I thought those looked better than the little pawns. So I was glad that they went to that instead of taking that from Battle Line. And this is also a multilingual game, so it's language independent. So there's a bunch of symbols on the cards, which the rule books, luckily, all of the cards except for one are unique. So you can just look at the rule book and be like, this is what this one does. But it's fairly intuitive on the cards themselves and what they do for most of them.
I would agree.
Yeah. I think the art looks great on the cards. It's definitely exaggerated, cartoony art, but I think it works for this.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like you mentioned earlier, it fits with ILO's whole like small box, like kind of goofy themed art.
Yeah, I mean, and they're once again, they're just playing cards more or less, and so that's where it's perfectly fine to have this art and stuff on there, because it's like all you need to know is the number and then the color, and then the art's just an extra on it.
So one of the handful of things where I actually think Battle Line did a little bit better, makes it less language independent, which you were talking about earlier, Zach. But their tactic cards had spelled out on the card what it does.
Yes.
So when you drew the card, you could just read the card and see what it did without having to reference the rule book or know, from experience what the card does, which is kind of nice. Like I said, it does hurt the language independence, especially the Battle Line cards. It's like a block of text.
Yeah. Yep.
That tells exactly what the card does, which is somewhat less elegant.
Yeah, and basically you can tell that one of them was a release from a more niche company that was like
war gamer type,
and then this one was more because Yellow's French, right?
I don't know.
All right. Well, anyway, they're already a multinational corporation, or more multinational company. I don't know if they're a corporation or a company, but or limited liability Cthulhu or anything like
yes.
that. Yeah. But I know they release in multiple languages all the time, so it would make sense for them to be language independent.
I agree.
Any comments, Jeff?
I like that they call the poker hands not just the poker hands sometimes. The rules I was using called them like 3 cards of the same color was called an ordered clan.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And 3 cards of the same value was a Schotten Totten team. Or if it was just any set of 3 cards, it was Wild Rabble, which is very different than just calling it whatever it's called in poker.
Yeah. 3 of a kind.
So much more
flush.
thematic.
Yeah, and when you don't give a shit about poker, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that I think pretty much covers art and components.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump over to rules and rules explanation. This one's a little bit more involved from a rules perspective. I still think it's pretty easy to teach.
Oh, yeah.
And it's pretty easy to understand the base things, especially for if you exclude tactics cards for a second. That part of the game is easy to teach.
Yes, it is.
We're gonna take turns playing cards until you play a max of 3 cards to an area, and if at any point you can prove that hey they can't make a better 3 card set than you can, you win it.
I think that's the hardest part, just because it has to be on the board, and so many times like I've seen people, it's like no, I do this, and it's just like, well, how did you get that? And you have to be like, well, because of this over here, and then this here, and this here. And then also it can't be from this and like there's a lot of things that you can point out. For certain things you have to point out that it's newer people might be like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's like it's like I played 3 cards and I'm like, Adrian, you played 1 card there, but I just want to let you know you can't beat me there already. And you're like, wait, but what? And then also if with tactic cards and stuff, because those things they have wild colors.
Yeah.
So
the tricky thing with tactics cards though is those don't count for that proving that they can't beat you.
If they're not played.
So like,
yeah, exactly.
So if like I might be planning on playing a tactics card, like if I'm going for say a green run 9-8-7 and the green 8 has already been played, I have my 9 out there. You have a 8-7-6 run, and like you can prove that the green 8's been played. You can't make a higher run than me. I win. If you can do that before I play that wild as the green 8. Then congrats, you won it, and my strategy is now fucked.
Exactly, yes.
So that's kind of an interesting thing, which bringing in those tactics cards, this is one of the areas where I think the rule, like, it can be tricky just to keep in mind as you're playing, when you're teaching a new player, like, for them to keep in mind, balancing the number of tactics cards, because if I play, you could never play more than one more than your opponent. So, like, at the beginning of the game, I can play 1, and then that lets Zach play as many as 2.
But if I didn't play any, you couldn't play another.
More.
And one of the times we were playing, I used that against you.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, because I literally had one I want to play, and I'm like, oh, Adrian has 1 more than me. I don't need to play this right now.
Yeah.
So telling them about that limit is good, and then also when like that you can still play on stones that have already been claimed if there are not 3 cards there from your side.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to be like, because as the game gets longer and longer, less options for you to play, and you don't want to fuck up a
something you're running for.
Yeah, exactly. So being like, yeah, if you just have to play a card and you can't play anything right now, playing to something that you've already lost is good.
Good way to burn a card.
Yeah, it's a good way to burn a card without making it easier for your opponent.
And yeah, the tactics thing, that's just another thing that's like when you're first learning, I know is hard to keep in mind, like that you can't go over that amount.
I do want to say we are also playing with the other expert variant where you can only claim a stone at the beginning of your turn.
Yes.
Because that basically we played like Battle Line.
We had all played Battle Line first.
All
of
of
the rule in Battle Line.
Exactly.
Which is something that actually, speaking of rules and stuff, I do appreciate for Schotten Totten. I haven't ever played with anybody who hadn't played Battle Line, but I can imagine if you're trying to teach somebody new, you could start with the very basic Schotten Totten rules, which are a watered down Battle Line. So instead of throwing everything, tactics cards, really restricted claiming things, because you could make a great play to where, I should win this.
Yeah.
But
then I play a tactic card that's like, you actually have to have 4 cards there instead of 3.
Yeah. Or, here, that card of yours is trash.
Yeah.
Oh, you just made that perfect run that is unbeatable in this situation?
Yep.
Let's now discard one of those cards.
How about that middle card to make sure you just can't complete that run?
Yeah. So that being able to take some of that extra complexity out and just play a simple...
Yeah, this one's a lot more beginner friendly, I would say.
Yes.
In between those two.
But I like that they kept all of those other things as an option to add in.
Yeah. That would have been disappointing if they did not.
Yeah. Right on. Anything else you guys could think of for rules explanation?
Not really. I mean, no, I don't think so. The
Nope.
end game rule it's just as soon as somebody gets those, that's it.
Yeah. And if you ever run out of cards to draw, because this came up in one of our games, Zach, if you run out of cards to draw, you just keep playing from hand.
Yeah.
And you don't draw any more cards.
Yeah.
Till eventually somebody will win them all.
Especially if they're like, oh, I actually could have won a while ago if I had actually looked at my hand. Adrian.
Yes. as happens occasionally. Yes. Right on. So we talked a lot about gameplay and the rules thing, but let's officially talk a little bit about gameplay here, really briefly. So,
all right, this game has a an interesting build up in playing, because when you first start out, you're like, you look at your hand and you're like, all right, I have all these cards, none of them match, none of them mean anything together. And so it's like, and there's all of these spaces to play, and so you're just like, well, basically you're playing cards while trying to keep every option you have open. And you're just like, okay, well, I'm gonna play this here, draw, and then as the game slowly goes, then you're going to be like, okay, I see where my opponent's strong. I see where I'm strong. I see where I can mess with my opponent's strength and get that one that he was relying on that may let you connect two other cards, or, two other stones or something like that. And then near the end, it's just like, oh God, he's going to get these, and he's going to get these in 2 turns if I can't get this one specific card that needs to come up. And then, your opponent you draw, and it's that one card that you really need. And you're like, oh, thank fucking God. And I just like how you have so many options in the beginning, and then as the game goes longer, your options just go less and less and less until you're just like, I need these specific things.
Yeah. One
thing I do like is that even if you, Adrian, say you play that 987 of green, if I just play, as long as you can't prove that you can beat me, so I guess it'd be, well, because technically I could tie you. Right?
But ties go to whoever finished first.
Okay.
So if I get my 987 green out, then I can just win.
Yeah. But say you put the 8 and 7, say it's 876, until I don't put a 7, 8, or a 9 there, then you can't claim it, even though it's blank. And I'm just like, I'm going to leave that there until I absolutely have to put something there.
Yeah. Because then that gives you a chance to get tactics cards that could fuck with that.
Yes.
And that's definitely an interesting kind of dilemma, and you run into that in other areas too, as you're building these hands and trying to vie, and it's where it gets really interesting, mid game, a lot of what you talk about early game. You're feeling each other out, which again feels I struggle to look at this from anything other than Battle Line. But one of the things I really like for thematic reasons with Battle Line, it really feels like you're 2 generals who are deploying armies, and you're kind of feinting and feeling each other out, and where's he strong, where's he weak, where can I do things, and then as you start to get a better feel for where you're deploying your forces, you can figure out how to react and counterattack.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And I really like that. And so it leads to interesting situations where you can even end up sometimes bluffing. I've got a 9 and 8 suited, but I don't have that 7 yet. Well, I could play the 9, and then I can let it sit there for a while. So am I going for 3 9s, which is a very powerful thing that's hard to beat? Or am I going for a run? You don't know yet. And then you play a 9, and then it's like, okay, so now we both have 9s down. Well, here I play an 8. So now you can't beat it with a set of 9s. You have to be going for a run. Unless you happen to have you have that 7, and you're like, ha, I've got you now.
But what I like about that is once you figure out you have that one card that your opponent needs, if the only way you can prove they can't have that card is if you play it. And then once you play it, there are some tactic cards that are like, okay, well, that's mine now. Sweet. But then there's also, you have to play it to prove that they don't have it. And so I play it, and then on your turn, you're like, oh, fuck, this means if I don't get that, if I didn't have this one card, or I don't have certain tactic cards to fix that, it's going to show that I'm going to win on the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that makes for some interesting push and pull, and that can even be a decision for you, holding that card, well, he doesn't know I have this. So he might think he can still draw it. So I can keep it hidden.
Exactly.
So he's still digging for it and still focusing on trying to win that run as I build up, the rest of whatever I'm going for, and then crushingly reveal later that, aha, you never stood a chance.
Yeah.
I really like that. I don't know. What about you, Jeff? You have any input on gameplay for Schotten Totten?
Learn the rankings of poker hands to know how to play this game.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Like flush over 3 of a kind over garbage.
I mean,
No.
feel like
It's a flush run, a color run over 3 of a kind, and then a flush, and then a straight.
I feel like flush is the only one that seems weird. Like if you don't know poker, but otherwise, like a run that is suited.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even need to call it a color flush or anything. A run that is all matches.
Yep.
That makes sense for that to be
the most powerful,
really high, and then 3 of a kind,
Mhm.
and then a flush is the weird one.
Yeah.
But then a run.
Yeah.
And then just most point,
Mhm.
like total value makes sense in like order of things for me personally.
Sure.
I guess.
But that was
My
only-
poker privilege showing.
He was just pissing all over you, Jeff.
It's fine.
Fuck you for not knowing poker, Jeff.
Yeah. Besides that, yeah, I mean, it played a lot like Battle Line.
Yes,
and,
it did.
You just kind of played things and hoped they didn't fuck you before you fucked them.
Right. I think that this one has the this one has a lot of from your own side, like this meaty decisions you have to make, because it's every time you play a card you can't get it back, basically. So it's always like, if I'm using this 7. That means if I ever come the 9 of the same color, then I'm never, like, if I can't play it there, then I'm never going to be able to do a line of it or a color run of it.
Yeah.
And so it's every time you play a card, you're basically sacrificing something.
Yeah.
And you have to figuring out like what are the good feigns, what are the good ones to be like, I can just throw this one away. It's not important. This one is super critical. I need to do my best stuff there, but I have to make sure he doesn't think that it's one that's super critical and stuff like that. And so yeah. But it's also simple enough to, because it's just you play a card and then you just draw a card. Like it's a simple enough turn, but it's also there's a lot of decisions that you're weighing in your mind.
Yeah, that could have very long-term repercussions that you don't necessarily see yet.
Yeah, because you're like, I've got this, I got the 9 and the 7, and then you just never see that 8 because your opponent has that 8, and you're just like, I just need the 8 so much. And then you get that Joker, and you're like, yes, I finally get. But then your opponent is like, I'm not going to play any more tactics cards because I'm guessing you got a Joker. So now even though you have the card to fulfill it, you can't play it. And you're like, you son of a bitch.
Yes, that is the theme.
Mhm.
You son of a bitch.
I feel like most games I've played of this, it has been pretty close.
Yes, very much so.
How are your games when you play, Jeff?
Yeah, all pretty close. I was playing with a new player, but I had only played Battle Line maybe once or twice before that. So, but we both didn't really know poker.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to constantly figure. It's like, what's this again? What's that?
Well, I mean, you had those nice cards.
Yeah. There's the cheat sheets were very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, but it worked well.
Okay.
Especially with 2 people like never really having played the game before. It's definitely a simple enough game.
I would agree.
Yes.
All right, let's jump over to final thoughts then. Jeff, how about you? What are your final thoughts on Battle Line Schotten Totten?
I like Schotten Totten, but I like Battle Line more just based on the theme.
Okay.
The sort of kind of goofy Scottish thing is okay.
Okay.
But I like the more like base
military
cold down, also having all the text on the card and stuff. But a perfectly fine game of simple, quick, easy enough to grasp without, well, not as easy to grasp as I would like as someone that's with the poker hands and stuff like that, and what's better than others, but there is a nice easy reference guide, and you can pretty much play this with a deck of cards too, can't you? With some modification.
1.5 decks of cards.
1.5
and some way to differentiate, so you had 6 unique suits.
Well, no, just like 1.5 decks of cards that aren't the same. So like a red and a blue one or something like that. Because then you'd have. Oh, I see what you're saying. On the
like if you did a basic deck of cards, you've got hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades.
Yeah.
You need 6.
Well,
suits.
I was saying another deck of cards that looks different than that first deck of cards.
That would also work.
Yeah, because it's 6 colors.
Yes,
that's fair. Just use a marker and make like red circles and then black circles. Yep. But yeah, it's an interesting, great game, and no wonder it's still around because it's basic enough and easy enough for pretty much anyone to pick up and play. A quick, easy little battle game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Zach, what about you?
I I really like this game. I think the decisions you have to make in this game are, like you're saying, it's like ones that you're making a choice. You're like, I'm putting this card out of here. I hope it doesn't fuck me in the end, because it's all based on that deck of cards. You just don't know what's going to be coming up, and you can't really plan for it. You can just hope for the best, and it's all about, well, this is the best thing I have right now. I'm hoping to get these cards, but I can't just rest the entire game on that hope. And
Right.
so it's all about, like, there's 9 different battles going on, and it's learning to know which ones are the important ones, which ones you can throw away, and which ones you think you can steal from the opponent. I really like that aspect of it. I like this one. I mean, I didn't really feel like, even though Battle Line had an extra card, I never really missed it. And I think this one looks better, especially because, I mean, that one is more like sort of ancient, like, you know, like
Greek pottery.
Exactly. And I just like these little goofier ones a little bit more for it. And so, yeah, I thought I like this game a lot.
Right on. I also like it a lot. I'm with Jeff. I definitely prefer the Battle Line version of it, just from a thematic perspective. Like, I
Because
think
there is no gameplay difference at all.
Yeah. Because I agree with you, Zach, that I didn't notice a difference playing Schotten Totten versus Battle Line, despite Battle Line going up to 10.
Yeah.
I like that didn't in any of my plays seem to make a difference.
It didn't feel
for
like
me.
you were just getting 90% of the experience.
No, not at all. You know, it still felt like it had the same depth of decision. You know, just the only time it came up is a couple times playing Schotten Totten, being like, somebody would mention like, oh yeah, like a 10-9-8 can beat that. It's like, well, no, a 9-8-7 because there's no 10s. Oh yeah, that's
somebody
right. Pointing at Zach.
Yeah.
Kept mentioning 10s, and it's like, Zach, there are not 10s.
And I'm
There
like,
are
I know,
not 10s.
I know. Listen to my intent, not the actual words.
Yeah. I get, why Zach, you say you would like Schotten Totten more for the art. It's definitely a more modern art style,
Mhm.
and like I said, it fits that ILO goofy kind of art style.
Yeah.
But I prefer the Battle Line stuff. I like the ancient Greek kind of art style, and then the thematicness of like generals deploying armies makes more sense to me. Connects more to me thematically than Scottish dudes throwing stones around.
It's two. I mean, yeah, two clans fighting. For me, it's for either, like, it wasn't enough of a connection for the theme to me to matter either way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I basically just viewed it as playing cards, and I'm like, I like these playing cards more than I like those playing cards. I do wish the ILO ones did have a little bit of text on there, but like I said, I understand why they didn't.
Yeah. So that is Schotten Totten. Moving right along to the third game in this series, Hanamikoji. This is a 2013 release from designer Kota Nakayama. Artist is Meisharli, and published by Emperor S4. It plays 2 players.
What?
And takes about 15 minutes. Zach, do you have a rules explanation for us?
I do. In Hanamikoji, you're attempting to win over the head geishas in the Hanamikoji district. Each geisha has a numerical value representing charm points and the number of their cards in the deck. Each player will take turns doing one of 4 actions, which are usually either playing or discarding cards. At the end of each round, if you have a majority of a geisha's cards in front of you, you gain her favor and move the influence token in front of you. If you tie in cards with your opponent, the token just stays wherever it is. If you have the influence of 4 head geishas or a total of 11 charm points at the end of a round, you win. Otherwise, you play another round, keeping the influence tokens where they are.
And, important note, if one player gets 4 and the other player gets 11 charm points.
Yeah, if one player gets 4 out of the 7 geishas and the other person gets 11 or more charm points, the charm points wins.
Yes. Charm points are more important.
At least when I'm playing. No, just
son of a
bitch.
But yes, quality over quantity in Hanamikoji.
That is correct.
So, let's dive right in here to our initial thoughts. Zach, what are your initial thoughts, if you can remember?
I can.
Way back to Hanamikoji.
I had seen. I feel like I've had this game for about a year now, but I remember watching a run through of John Gets Games. He did this game, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's not much in the game, but there looks to be a lot of gameplay in there." And I'd heard a lot of good things about it just on the internet, and so I ended up paying like almost $30 for the game on Amazon. because it had been out of print for a little while, and it was, like I said, in between print runs, and I was just like, I really want to play this game, and I was like, fuck it, I'll pay $30 for it, and I was super excited to get it to the table.
Right on. Jeff, what about you? What was your initial thoughts on Hanamikoji?
I just remember Zach talking the fuckload out of the game all the time. I don't think I played it until quite a bit later.
Yeah.
But you were playing this fucking game all the time at game night. But I never really got a close look at it until sometime we played at like Zuni Street.
Right.
When we got there at like 2 o'clock.
Oh yeah,
one
back
day.
on when you had Wednesdays off.
Oh yeah, I used to have Wednesdays off. That was great.
We could go to barbecue. It was
Yeah. Now I have weekends off, but
Yeah.
whatever. And then we played Hanamikoji for that first time.
Right on. I'm similar boat. I remember Zach being super excited about this game and talking about like how great it was. I don't remember exactly when I first got to play it, but for me, it wasn't a game night. It was definitely over here. Like, I think you got over here early for some game day. We were meeting up with friends, probably bullshit Paul being late or something.
sounds about right.
And we played a game of it, and I remember, just like I was excited to finally get to play it because you'd been really excited about it, and I'm always interested in 2-player games, especially that play in a relatively short amount of time, because Megan and I love to have like a small box 2-player game that we can just take places with us, so that we're sitting around having a beer at a brewery randomly, or like sitting in an airport or wherever. Let's bust out some 2-player game. So I was excited to try a 2-player game that you were really excited about and that had good strategic depth.
Right.
Components, once again, it's mostly a deck of cards with a
some
couple
tokens.
punch board tokens. This is another one where the art is just gorgeous. It is fantastic.
Even though we're not comparing and contrasting, this is hands down my favorite of the 3.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching it, and the first thing that struck me was like, holy shit, those cards look amazing. The main geisha cards, because it's 7 different geishas, and they all look different, and they each of their cards have something that is on them. So like one of them is playing or one of them has a fan, and then so her cards are the fan and stuff like that. And so one is like a scroll, whatever the guitar thing is called,
which I always like. It seems like I always think of it as a hammer.
Okay.
They look like, because it's like a boxed off end for the guitar, like it's a really long,
with
thin neck.
3 or 4 strings.
Yeah. But it just always to me looks like a hammer.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then like a Sakura tree and stuff like that.
Teapot.
Yeah, teapot. But yeah, I thought the art was like, oh my god, that looks amazing.
Yeah, the art is really, really well done. The cardboard punch-out components, there's the 7 to mark the geishas, like where they are on their track, and then there's
Influence
the 4,
markers.
the influence markers, and then there's the 4 for each player to mark what actions you have and which ones you've taken. They're pretty standard punch board. There's nothing...
And it's whatever side you choose, like whenever you do an action, you flip it over and it's grayed out, so it's easy enough to see. As long as you remember to do that, you're like, all right, this is the ones that I've taken, these are ones that I have not taken.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much it for art and components. I mean, we could gush about the art some more and how good it is, but
just loop this 15-second portion over and over again, and then be like, man, they sure did talk about that for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is 7 hours. They just would not shut up about it. They lost. They had no interesting things to say after the first hour.
Jesus.
But then I got the subtext in the 4th hour, and I was like, oh man, it's wide open. Like it busted wide open now.
Anyway, moving on to rules and rules explanation. This is another one where it's deceptively straightforward from a rules perspective, but I do think it's the most complicated of the 3.
That's because the other ones are draft. Like they're things that are more common in game that are easy. It's play a card or you're just drafting. So you just take a card and then you're going to play it and hit it. This one, it's you have 4 actions and only 4 actions, and you can only do each action once.
But they're all quite a bit different.
That is correct. And it's just when I'm explaining the game, I'm just like, all right, these are what each of the things do, and it's labeled as icons on each of the things that I think are fairly easy to figure out.
Yes.
The first one is just you put 1 card face down from your hand. That's your secret card that you're going to score at the end of the round that your opponent will not see.
Yeah.
The second one is you're going to discard 2 cards from your hand. The third one is you're going to put 3 cards face up, and then your opponent is going to choose one of those cards, and then you get the 2 ones that they did not choose. And then the fourth one is, and the numbers are also related to the amount of cards that you're playing too, which
Correct.
is good. And then the fourth one is you're going to take 4 cards, you're going to put them in 2 stacks of 2, basically, and your opponent's going to choose one, and then you choose whichever one they did not. So basically, this one has the I cut, you choose sort of thing.
Which I really like I cut, you choose in a lot of games. I think Hanamikoji does a great job of implementing that in those last 2, especially because like the first 2, the place one face down for you to keep and the discard 2, those are things your opponent never gets to see.
Exactly. So I get to know which one I'm keeping, or I get to know which ones I'm not keeping, so I know that those 2 aren't important, so it may make other cards more important or less important.
And we should note that there is one card at the beginning of each round that's tossed in the box.
Oh yes,
and no one
so
can
there's
see.
never going to be any perfect information.
Yeah. But I really like how like those first 2, you keep information from your opponent, but at the same time you gain no information with those. Whereas even with like the other 2, you gain some information based on what your opponent takes. What you do with that information or how you interpret it is another matter entirely. But I really appreciate how, as the game goes on, like I remember one of the very first games that let's get into gameplay. We'll come back to that.
Yes.
But yeah, I really like the difference in that and how part of it is I cut, you choose, and part of it is just like information denial.
Exactly.
And it's easy to explain like how those each kind of work. I can't really, like, I don't know. I never had any trouble really.
No. Every time I've taught it, it's after 1 or 2, like after. It's like, this is how this works. After explaining it, everyone's like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. So the rules are simple enough.
Yes.
But it's tricky from a gameplay perspective, which we'll get to here very shortly.
Yeah. Basically, I'd say 2 extra things. One is that, like, letting your opponent know that except for those 2 cards you discard, every other card's going to get played. So don't accidentally put yourself in a situation where you're like, oh God, I'm going to put it here where there's going to be useless cards that my opponent knows, and so he's going to take the one good card, and you only have shitty cards.
Yeah.
But then also, 2, this game can go more than 1 round, and so at the end of each round, if no one has won, you keep, like, say I got 2 of the 2 geishas, and you got 1 of the 3 geishas, but then say we tied on everything else. We're going to start the next round. Then I already have the influence of those 2 geishas. And so if we both tie on one of those 2,
it stays where it is.
It stays where it is. So,
but you can win back.
Yeah, you can win it back, but it's harder. It's harder to win back. So it's like your priorities are like, I want to keep these things, or it's like, I know I'm going to get this one regardless, so I can focus on getting the one that my opponent has. And so how your priorities shift through each round because those influence markers stay where they are.
Yeah. And that's something that's important to like make sure a new player understands, is that it's going to play until someone wins, which I mean could in theory be forever if you keep awkwardly switching things back and forth.
I don't remember if there's a rule about after a certain amount of rounds, but I've never seen it go more than 3. So
yeah, I can't think of any that I've gone more than 3.
Most of the time, it always goes 1 on that first one because this is a game where knowing the game is you're better at it.
I feel like most of ours now go into the second one, but like that's it. Like it's hard done after 2.
Yeah.
But
we should also mention that each of the geishas all have a number of their points, but that is also how many cards of theirs are in the deck.
Yeah, which Zach mentioned in the rules overview, but like that's another important thing.
It's an important thing,
out.
Yeah. So those like the 2-point ones, they're only worth 2 points, but say if you have one of the 2 scrolls from your opponent and you had the discard available, you can just get rid of that, and you know for a fact you're getting that one. So it's used to get rid of ones that you know you're going to lose or you know that you're going to win.
Which kind of ties back around to what we were talking about with the token staying in the same position.
Yeah.
You know, again, with those 2s, if you win one of the 2s, then you know that as long as you get one of them out, you're not going to lose it.
Or, well, if you can either tie there, or ideally you have both of them in your hand, just pitch both of them. Now you know you're going to win that one regardless.
That sums up rules pretty well. I think we can move on into gameplay.
Yeah.
Which you were mostly just talking about anyways.
I mean rules and gameplay, especially in these kind of games, really blend together.
Yeah. I mean, all I said was numbers in the deck, and then you're talking about strategies and gameplay.
Yeah.
This is like, Jesus.
Sorry, I was just reliving me beating Adrian, and it was so.
Son of a.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this game, I really love I don't know how to describe it like from a gameplay, like to put it into terms of a mechanic, but I love that this is a game where you sit down and somebody explains the rules to you and you get your hand and you look at it and you're like, all right, my initial, like, what, you get 5 cards initially?
6 cards.
6 cards. So you're like, oh,
Well, no, I mean, yes, 6 cards, yeah.
Then you draw.
Then you draw a card, yeah.
So you get your initial hand of cards and you sit there and you're like, holy shit, like I've got 3 5s and 2 4s and like a 3 and then like a 2. Like, man, I've got like a great hand. Like I'm going to really be able to take control of all these things. And no, because you
can only guarantee one that you know you're going to get.
Yeah.
Because 5 of those cards have the opportunity or are going to your opponent or discard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like starting with a great hand is almost bad in this one because it's hard to manage how you're going to move that around. I mean, like you could do like, okay, well, I'll play 2 5s and a 4 out, and Zach, you get to pick one. And you're like, all right, well, I'll take a 5 and you take a 5, and then you get the 4. And it's like, okay, well, now we're tied on the 5, and I have one of the 4s. There's still 3 out there.
Yeah. One of my favorite things in this game is when somebody has played their 3 and their 4, and then I've played my 1 and my 2. So I know everything I can know about their hand, and they know absolutely nothing about mine. And then it's their turn for them to either keep or discard cards. And they're like, I don't know anything.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Which was definitely us the first time you taught me way back. Like that was one of the things that's always imprinted in my brain about this was playing it and getting to a point where we did the exact opposite things. And all of a sudden me having the realization that you've seen a good chunk of my hand. I've seen nothing from your hand.
Yep.
I have no idea what's happening. You've buried a card. You've discarded cards. There's a burned card at the start. There's all this unknown information that I don't know. And you know things.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much the only thing you would know is which ones I grabbed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
But I really like that. And I like the way that you're forced to always do something a little different on your turn.
Yes, yeah. That every turn you are doing something different. You're correct. That is absolutely correct, yes.
And it just makes the order you do those in make all the difference.
I'm just imagining. On my turn, I would like to keep just putting one card to the side. Keep putting one card to the side.
It'd be so much easier
Yeah.
to win.
Yeah. We just put all our cards to the side and we just
reveal the hands.
Just deal out the cards or reveal. Just deal out the whole deck. Toss one in the box.
Oh, it's like playing war all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that this is a game where it goes multiple rounds and how you can get into kind of push-pull and like, the first round especially, you don't really know anything going in. You don't know where to compete. But then after that first round, and once some people have gotten control, like you and your opponent have each gotten kind of control, and then you can look and be like, okay, well, I have control of like a 5 and a 3 and a 2.
Yeah.
So I can kind of like use those as anchors for my strategy to keep those while trying to maybe pull another 1 or 2 over to me.
Because it's easier for you to keep ones that you've already got the influence on. So you can play a more defensive, but not as aggressive. You can be like, all right, I'm going to keep 1 here. You may have like 1 or 2 extra of those cards. But you're going to focus on other things. And if it looks like you can get away with like throwing away those extra cards, great. But there are times, it's like, I want to aggressively try and get 1 or 2 more of his geishas, assume that you're probably going to lose 1 of yours, and then hope that you can squeak out a win.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen, I will say I've seen multiple times somebody get 4 geishas and the other person get 11 or more points. So it always feels tight.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone be like, I have all the geishas. Which obviously can't happen. I don't know.
I think it could.
Maybe it could, but whatever.
Your opponent would have to actively be helping you.
Exactly.
Like,
but
it'd go beyond like beginner bad play to like actively helping you. Like, I just want to see this happen once, so I'm going to work with you to make sure you get all the geishas. Like, I can't imagine.
It's great, Wingman.
Yeah.
2-player cooperative game.
I would assume it would be some person would get all the 3s in the first round, and then the other person helps them get those 4 while ditching all of the 2s if possible.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I don't know how it happened, but
yeah.
I don't think it could without active
Yeah.
cooperation.
But I don't think I've seen anybody get like 5 geishas. And the most points I've seen is like 13. That's because they did have like 5, a 4, a 3, no, a 5, a 4, and then 2 2s. So 13, yeah.
Yeah, so in that case, you win both.
He would win both, but
which is a pretty substantial win.
The best that I've seen someone do is they just win on both terms.
Yeah.
But I've never seen someone be like, yeah, I got like fucking 15 points, or I got 5 geishas. It's always been somewhat close to the winning line, not necessarily that the other person's right behind them.
Right. I don't know. Anything else from gameplay that we didn't cover in rules or in gameplay that you guys want to address here?
I don't think so.
Right on.
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to final thoughts here. Zach, how about you start this one?
I love this game. This one I think is the most interactive out of all of them, because the other ones, like Schotten Totten, well, I guess we can go into that'll be in the comparison.
Correct.
Yeah. But I like how interactive this game is. I like how you have to make tough choices of offering up cards to your opponent and just like looking them in the eye and be like, don't take these, but don't look like that's what you're doing.
Yes.
You want to be like, yeah, I don't care, whatever you take, man. But in the back of your mind, oh God, don't take that. Don't take that. Please don't take that one. Like I said, I love the art. I love how every time I've taught this game to someone, they've always been like, oh, sweet. Let me try. Okay. I know how the game works now. You destroyed me. Now let's play again. And then it always felt competitive. I always like how like that one card that everybody keeps. You always feel that little bit of tension. You're always just like, all right, am I super fucked by my opponent flipping over that card? And it's either you are, or they're like, oh, that one did not matter at all. That's the worst is if you kept one card and then you realize like halfway through that, oh God, this card is worthless now. And it's always great when you can make that happen to your opponent.
It's always great when it happens to someone else.
Yeah, 100%. I love the art. I totally thought it was worth, like, I wouldn't tell people to buy this for $30. I would have done it again in a heartbeat, given the same situation. I wouldn't buy it again for $30. But I think it's an amazing game. I love that it has so few components and yet it feels so... There's strategy, but there's also a lot of tactics in there too, which I always love. Yes.
Right on. I also really, really like Hanamikoji.
I said love, not really, really like.
Yeah, well, I assume that you really, really like it to the next level. So like it's you went past really, really like to love. I
just started at love.
Anyhow. So I really, really like Hanamikoji. I think it is a fantastic 2-player game. Although, in theory, it could go on for a long time. I agree, like we talked about, I've never seen that. It always feels very tight. It's easy to grasp for a new player, but still, they're still able to be competitive. There's the perfect blend of hidden information versus open information and like having vague ideas about things, but not ever enough to feel confident in your decisions. Like there's still a lot of like, I'm
exactly.
gonna hope for the best.
Yeah.
I guess maybe this is the right thing. And then when it works, you're like, yes, I did a great job. And when it doesn't, no. All right, let's play again. And I really appreciate that. It does have fantastic art, although like art doesn't super win me over. It is always a nice plus, especially in a game like this. I like that it's a small box. You can take it anywhere and play anywhere. And yeah, it's a really solid little 2-player game. I like it a whole lot. Jeff?
I also really like this game. Great art, good feel of all of the, I don't know, even all the tokens that are just basic cardboard stuff all mesh well with the theme of the game.
Yeah.
It's a game that doesn't require, I mean, if you know the base rules, you don't need any sort of communication in this game at all. You just put down your 3 cards, they choose one and move it over, and you can play this game without speaking a word, really. And sometimes that's the best, because then you're just freaking out silently inside your
yeah, you don't want to open your mouth because your teeth are just chattering.
Because it's just because if I open my mouth, I will scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically everything else you guys have both said that it's art's great, everything's great, game's great.
Right on. So the moment you've all been waiting for, let's compare and contrast these a little bit, just to kind of keep it from rambling too much, rather than go free form and just spitball. Let's maybe jump around from each person and let everybody kind of discuss them. Sound good to you guys?
Sure.
Cool. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the three of these games? How do you rank them? What do you like about them in relation to each other? Kind of bring it all home.
Hanamikoji's the best. Then Schotten Totten, and then Tides of Madness. Hanamikoji and Tides of Madness are like polar opposites of games. One takes way too long to get the strategy down, and one you almost get instantly and want to keep playing over and over. And then Schotten Totten's just kind of like, let's get some poker hands down. Hanamikoji, I think, is like a heavy leader. There's some distance between any of those, and then Tides of Madness pretty low. There's a big gap in there. Like, yeah, it's hard to compare all three because they're all just enough different. Where like Tides of Madness has just kind of a basic drafting. The Schotten Totten is playing down cards and hope they don't fuck you, and then Hanamikoji is like laying down cards and hope your opponent doesn't fuck you by choosing the right one.
Yeah.
That they should be taking.
It's all in the eyes, Jeff.
Yes.
You got to lead them to the right card.
Yeah, just be like wild eye staring at the pile. But yeah, it's they're both fantastic games. But Hanamikoji wins double A plus S rank in the S rank.
Okay.
S plus.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna deviate here from what I can already tell is gonna be the norm.
What?
Yeah.
How do you know?
For me, I vastly prefer Battleline / Schotten Totten, I suppose. But really, for me, Battleline. I like the more strategic feel. I feel like there's a little bit more you can do for long-term planning in Battleline, which is more my thing. I think I feel the theme the most in that one, which is weird for me to be like, oh, I like the game where the theme connects the most to the gameplay. Although that's really the thing, is the theme connects very well to the gameplay, not that I like that theme the most. I do agree with Jeff that it is a large gap between Battleline and Hanamikoji, which are my two favorites that I really like in this one, and
Tides of Madness.
Tides of Madness.
And Tides of Madness, which I am pretty meh on. It just didn't feel nearly as brain burny in the right ways. It felt like one, like if I played it a bunch, I'd get it and could, like, it felt more solvable. Whereas I feel like Battleline and Hanamikoji, each time you play is going to be a little bit different about like how you try and play out your given hands in those games. They feel more unique each play, while still using the same mechanics, which I really appreciate. I do like Hanamikoji a whole lot. I think it's a fantastic game. I like the sometimes nearly brain crippling, like, oh God, what do I do? But it doesn't ever really drag on. Like, there's no room for a lot of AP in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's simple enough in that regard. Like you may be like, oh shit, there's no right answer. Oh, I'm just gonna guess I gotta go for this. Like, I guess this is what's best. Sometimes with the, like, especially if you've saved it till the end, the 4 tile where you're making 2 piles of 2 and your opponent picks one, you can sit there and think it through and be like, okay, well, if I do this combination, well, there's no reason you wouldn't take this and then win these. If I do it this way, we'll both break even. And if I do it this way, then you're going to take this other one and you're going to be ahead. All right, I guess I'll do this one where we vaguely break even. And I hope that our pocket cards is what make the difference. But yeah, so for me, it's definitely Battleline on top, Hanamikoji close second, and distant third for Tides of Madness. So, Zach, how about you?
All right, gonna write this train back to the correct spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hanamikoji, best. Number 1 popular.
Number 1 popular.
Yes. Schotten Totten 2. Yeah, it is definitely a close 2, but there's a little bit of a gap there.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3.5 for Tides of Madness. Like I said, I did enjoy that one. I do like that it did. I for all 3 of these, I like that they all are different.
Yeah.
Like they have a thing where you're just trying to collect sets, but they do it, each of them, very differently.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Tides of Madness should be the most interactive of the 3, just because it's drafting and you're choosing which ones, and you're comparing what you have with what your opponent, and you're trying to remember all that. But I feel that for me, I don't know, my opponent sort of mattered the least.
Yeah.
For these. For this one, so it's for that, like, we're both drafting, and then it's like, well, who got the best? All right. Then
Like, I sure hope they give me back the cards that I wanted.
Yep. But you look at their having like, well, they're not going to do that. So, it's you're playing your opponent, but it's all in your head playing them. And then because you know what they're going to, because it's simple enough, the different things that if they're smart, they're going to choose this one. And so I'm going to have to choose this one. And then so after you see all the cards, you're going to be like, well, it's probably going to go down like this.
Yeah.
The real decisions are like which cards you're going to keep and which cards you're going to discard. But otherwise, for the most part, it's just like after that first one, like, okay, well, out of all of these, it's gonna play out like this. Schotten Totten just feels like you're playing a bunch of poker hands against your opponent, and there are ways for them to mess with you, but it's just like, all right, this one's important. All right, this one's important. I don't care about that one, and you're playing a bunch of little matches against them. But I felt a literal line divide between that.
Yes,
between you and the opponent. What I meant by that. That's what I meant by okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Whereas Hanamikoji, I'm playing against someone, but I'm really having to be like, all right, I'm giving you these cards. Don't fuck up. Don't pick the one you want. Pick up the one I want you to take.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're always just like, well, I'm going to take this one. And you're like, no, this is the wrong one. Everything is awful now.
My favorite play is the putting 3 down and then it being like all 3 threes.
Yes.
Yes, be like, you get one and I get. What Ant did is he just put one of the 3s on my side and put the other 3 on his side.
Yes.
I was like, wait, I see.
My favorite is when it's like you said, it's all 3 of the 3s. It's you're like, I'm going to choose number 3. I pick all 3 of the same card. So I just want you to know the card you just took, I'm giving you is completely worthless because I've won this one.
Yes.
Or doing that with the 2 4s. It's the same. Like I have 2 5s and you have 2 5s now. Great, because I kept this other 5 on the side. So just those are useless. When you can give your opponent useless cards, it feels great. But if you're like, okay, obviously they're going to take this one, and I'm going to set myself up for this one, and then they end up taking the one you want, and you're like, oh no, now all these cards are useless. That I have the useless cards. That's a shame.
Hooray!
That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. So I feel that you are interacting the most with your opponent on this one because you have to give them cards that you're like, let me know which cards I get to keep, and then your opponent is doing the same thing, and because there's so few actions that you're like, all right, well, if I do these, then I'm gonna have to keep this card, and I have to get rid of these cards, and then your opponent's going through the exact same thing, and I think what pushes over the top is the fact that after each round, if no one's won, you play again, but the importance of each card changes because who has what influence.
Yeah.
And I think that's what pushes this one is that it not only are you playing multiple rounds, but each round feels different because certain cards are more important now than others.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up. Looks like Hanamikoji and Schotten Totten / Battle Line. Definitely the 2 clear winners here. Tides of Madness. Thanks for playing.
Yeah.
All right. On to cost and availability for these 3. If you want to get Tides of Time, which we didn't technically review, but if you want Tides of Madness minus a mechanic, that is super available for under $10 pretty much everywhere. Tides of Madness is running right around $10 if you want that extra madness thing in there, which I can't imagine playing regular Tides without the madness. Schotten Totten, if you want to pick that up, is running right around $12 pretty much everywhere online. Battle Line is available for more in the $15 to $16 realm. So if you want to spend a bit more to get an older game, really that's going to come down to what your preferences are for theme and art style. And finally, Hanamikoji is indeed $90 on Amazon and not really available anywhere else. So sorry on that one.
The best game.
I had seen earlier, Jeff, when you were like, oh, it's like $90. I was like, what? It's because I'd seen all these like $11 and $12 ones
that are
all
all
I had
out
not
of
seen is
stock.
that they are all unavailable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hopefully reprint soon.
I think it
Hopefully.
should be, if you remember, like us talking about like the Shadows of Kyoto and stuff, like I forget what company it was bringing the Emperor S4 games over here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that it's going to be coming out soon.
Hopefully. There are some copies on the geek market.
For
Almost
reasonable
all
prices.
European for $15, $19. Luckily, no language dependence at all in
No.
Hanamikoji.
That is correct, yeah.
It is. There's literally not in English except the rules.
So, all Right on. Well, let's move on here to some listener feedback. We'll start over on the BGG Guild. Zach, you got that ready for us?
Yes, I do. This is from Paulo. I have played all 3 of these games. My favorite is Hanamikoji. The 4 actions that you have to do during each turn make you do agonizing choices. You don't want to, but you have to. It's a great, great game, which is 100%.
Yes.
You have to do all of these.
And that is something I do love about that game.
The other 2 are also very good games. I like them a lot. Tides of Madness is a huge step up from the original Tides of Time with just the addition of the madness mechanic. Improves the game greatly and adds no weight to the game. I have played Battle Line, not Schotten Totten, so I don't really know if they're different. They're not really.
Nope.
I would say they aren't.
Correct.
I really like the way the game flows, but I think I prefer the other 2. I like the extremely hard choices you have to make in Hanamikoji. I like the drafting part of Tides of Madness. Those 2 things in either of those games make them better for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like I said, I think they did a great job with their drafting in Tides of Madness.
Yeah, and I could see like from an interesting mechanic perspective that the other 2 would stand above Schotten Totten /
Yes.
Battle Line.
Yeah.
But I think the gameplay itself, minus interesting mechanics, that's where Battle Line stands above
Gotcha.
for me.
You agree with that, Jeff?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Nigel, I believe this is the first time he's messaged us on here, it's always good to see new people doing that.
Yes. I mean, this is the first time Paulo's messaged us on BGG.
Yeah, well, he was on YouTube earlier, so it's old news. Nigel says, of the 3 games, I've only played the cousin of Schotten Totten, namely Battle Line. I really like the agonizing decisions throughout the game. Sometimes you have to play a useless card on a flag while hoping that you can still capture that flag. Definitely been there. Or so your opponents don't know that it's not a threat. I like that the tactics cards add more things to consider while not really complicating the game too much. It may sound weird, but I find that playing Battle Line really feels like a general commanding his army, ordering soldiers to the appropriate battlefield, guessing what the enemy's doing, deceiving the enemy with feints. I think this game gives me a rather thematic feeling that I was not expecting. I can see that. I know that's what you were saying, right? That this was the one that connected with you the most in terms of the theme with the mechanics.
Yeah, especially and that's where Battle Line stands above. Like I agree 100%. Like it connects really well theme to mechanics. It just feels natural, especially the way the game progresses from like initial feints to like starting to actually deploy your troops to like the final like, oh god, where can I win? And then inevitable loss.
Right. Hanamikoji is a game that I've been wanting to buy, and now I want it more since I'm going to Osaka and Kyoto in May. Playing Hanamikoji at Hanamikoji seems fun.
Yes, I have recently come to really enjoy the idea of playing games in the places they're named for.
Yeah.
Gives me excuses to travel more.
It's gonna be hard to play First Martians, though.
I mean, currently, if Elon Musk has his way, maybe in 20 years.
I mean, only if you have a Tesla to go up there. That's what you're...
He's just going to shoot a probe filled with Martian board games at Mars.
Yeah. May I also suggest you guys take a look at Parade or Arboretum? Parade is sort of an anti-set collection. Cards in 6 colors have value from 0 to 10. The players with the lowest points win. So normally you want to collect fewer cards, except when a player has the most cards in a color as compared to the other player, or in 2-player at least 2 more cards of a color than the other player. Each card of that color is worth 1 point, ignoring face value for him or her. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Also super unavailable.
Parade.
Yeah.
Nice. Arboretum is probably more popular. Cards in 6 to 10 colors, depending on players, have value from 1 to 8. You score points on your tableau. In the matter that to score a color, you need to have the highest points of that color in your hand at the game end as compared to other players. So you need to control what to play and what to keep. I have played Arboretum.
Yeah, someone brought that fairly recently, right?
Paul has it.
Okay.
And that is a really cool thing where it's like you want to play these cards, but you need to have enough, because if you don't have the most of that color, that awesome line you have means nothing.
Yep.
So it's definitely some good decisions
Bit
there.
of a table hog, if I remember
A little bit, yeah.
I've heard really good things about Arboretum.
Yeah. You should try it. I find both games fun as Battle Line. Try them if you haven't. And thanks for the show. One of my favorite podcasts. I especially love your reviews.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks, Nigel.
You are now featured in a review.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing right.
I mean, I think our reviews are actually really good. I think we do cover a lot of good things. We have different perspectives. There's a lot to like about our reviews. Be positive, Jeff.
No.
No, it is not in our nature.
True.
Yeah, but Parade, I think, is super out of print, and I don't think has been in print for a while.
Gotcha. Mark follows up with, have any of you three played Herbaceous? It would fit this episode perfectly.
I saw David play it on a table next to me because he won that at the raffle this year.
Nice. I've heard good things about that one too. I do think this one is, I looked at it, looked to be 1 to 4. So it looks like you play it with more than just 2 people.
Same with like some of the other ones that Nigel's.
Oh, no,
suggested,
yeah.
like
Arboretum and
stuff.
yes, yeah.
I've wanted to play Herbaceous for a long time. It's got art by Beth Sobel, who I think is like probably one of my top 3 favorite artists in board gaming.
Mm-hmm.
She does really fantastic art, and I've heard a lot of great things about it. I just have not yet gotten a chance to play it.
Well, David owns it, so
There you go.
Yeah, I
Get ready to play a bunch of plant games.
I made sure to put it into the raffle because I was hoping that somebody close to me would get it.
Yep.
So it turns out I do that a lot when I'm choosing games to buy for the raffle. It's like, what games do I want people to have that I can also play?
Right. But it sounds like we already got our next set of 3 games.
Yeah, we just got to find a copy of Parade.
Well, I was going to say Herbaceous, Arboretum, and then Photosynthesis. So it's all plant-based games.
Oh.
Sorry.
Parade is on eBay starting from $6.
oh,
So you're just gonna win an eBay battle, or spend $70 for it on Amazon.
yeah.
So what you do, bid $69 on eBay.
Flip it for $70.
Yeah,
and
well,
make a
I'm
buck.
just gonna say either you win that one and you saved $1, or you just spend one more dollar. Because what's $69 compared to 70?
Jesus.
I'd rather spend 7 instead of 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Well, thanks everybody who chimed in on the BGG thread. If you would like to give us any follow-up feedback for this episode, be sure to jump over to that same thread over on our guild number 2731 on BGG. You can also email us.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
We're on Facebook and Instagram /milehighgameguys. And you can always get a hold of us over on Twitter. I tweet under @MHGameguys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
And I am Jeff_MHGG.
And if you have not already, be sure to jump over to our website, www.milehighgameguys.com. Go to one of the episode posts, and in the show notes of said episode, there's a link to our Slack channel, which is a bunch of fun and has been recently blowing up. It's almost too distracting for me at work how active our Slack channel has been.
Mm-hmm. You just need to supervise people like I do.
Correct.
And then you can have all the time you need.
Indeed. So I just need to take your job, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Jeff, you just take your boss's job, just as long as you still stay above Adrian, so you can make him do all the work.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, join the Slack channel. It's a bunch of fun over there. Also, while you're browsing the interwebs and checking out awesome board game stuff, be sure to jump over to punchboardmedia.com and check out all of the awesome content creators over there. We recently added a whole bunch of new and awesome people to the Punchboard Media group who do even more podcasts and written blog stuff and videos and all of that.
If you want to hear how the more professional people do it,
Yes,
that's what Punchboard's for.
Yeah.
People who we're like, I'm
Gateway
pretty sure
trash.
we were included in Punchboard just to like set the bar.
Yeah,
so that
they'll be
everybody
like,
else looks
exactly.
really good.
Yeah. It'll be like, all right. But it's also good. Nobody worse than us can get in, so we can always be the worst.
Yeah.
We're the best of the worst.
They just need an example of what's below the bar.
Yeah.
Like, don't
we
be. don't
are
be
the
this.
We're the bar.
We are the bar.
We don't set the bar.
Yeah, we do.
Really?
Minimum acceptable
Exactly.
effort.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, like bar, I always think is like a higher thing to be like above. You want to be above the bar, but we're so low that's just you kind of like.
You know what it is?
just
We're not the bar. We're the great. So anything worse than us just falls straight through and then goes.
No, we're not. Because I think of like high jump. If you hit the bar, you failed. You lost. Like we're the bar. If you can't get over us,
We're that
you're not going to make it.
slim level of failure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you can't get above us, you don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
We are minimum acceptable level. That's bullshit. I think we're awesome. I love us.
I love the self-depreciating humor.
Yes.
But all right, let's wrap this up now. We've covered 3 games in under 2 hours. It's fantastic. So thanks everybody for tuning in and for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Be sure to tune in next week for our normal banter episode. And then next Friday, we are going to be reviewing the new Simon Eric Lang hotness, Rising Sun. And I promise it will be a return to the normal bloodbath of disagreement and strong opinions.
Yep. It's already broken the top 100 overall.
Yep.
Jesus. All right, I gotta go vomit now.
I mean, I agree with you, but I don't think it should be in the top 100 yet.
Ever. Yeah, it's gonna be contentious. I'm really excited.
I hope
for
it knocked an 18XX game out of the 100.
Fuck you. There's no 18XX in the top 100.
You know what?
They're not popular enough.
I just like
it's only a popularity contest.
Yeah, well.
It does not represent quality. Just also why Rising Sun's in the top 100. Wow, I just got real quiet after that. Expected more.
Cosmic Encounter got knocked out. That's what it was.
Good. That game can also fuck out of the top 100.
I just like that it got introduced so every 18X game just got one lower.
Fuck off. Oh, anyway, yeah, be sure to tune in next week for that. It should be at least interesting, if not fun. But yeah, as always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I have the whole set of Jeffs.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Cthulhu and Company.
Yeah. Most cards have...
LLC.
What's that?
LLC.
Yes, exactly. Limited Liability Corporation.
Cthulhu.
Yeah. Okay. I can respect that.
Is that the horse-themed Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Correct. It is.
It's just a horse with a bunch of tentacles on its face.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen that yet, so
I mean, I can look up Cthulhu horse, and I'm sure we'll find something.
Yeah.
I would do horse and tentacles, but that probably will lead a different way.
Yeah. Safe search on.
Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
At punchboardmedia.com.